Hi guys, this is Kaushik bringing you a video on React.js concepts and conclude with an explanation of a small React project. So, what does the project look like and how does the code compile in React? The answer to this question is that React project has got several components like component underscore one.js, component underscore two.js, and so on and so forth. And it uses libraries such as React.js, Redux.js, and they are all written in ECMAScript 2016 or ES6 code, but there is no complete browser support at the moment for ES6. So the ES6 code for all these components are transpiled um, through tools such as Webpack and libraries such as to a single JS file as application.js, which is a ES5 code which can be safely rendered on a browser to produce HTML. Now, a class-based component in React looks like this: class search bar extends component. Now, this is straight out of the code snippet from the search bar underscore JS, which we'll see soon. And the constructor function initializes variables and initializes states. In this dot state equals within curly braces term colon empty single quotes. When we use state, we initialize it by creating a new object and assign it to this dot state. We assign property term the state, which may be seen to refer to the search term in the search bar. Continuing with the example, so when a user changes the input in the input box, the search term also changes to reflect the change in the input text. The state can only ever be set from the constructor as above. First initially it is set from the constructor, but everywhere else in our components we use the set state method, which like this, this in the render method it is it returns the input which with the callback event of on change. So it uses a fat arrow notation which sets the state, and so anytime the state is changed, it re-renders the entire component with all its child components as well. And once this rendering is finished, the state is set with the new value of the DOM element, in this case in the input box. Now then, this project can be started through a Node package manager, which runs under the Node.js command prompt with npm start command, which creates a server. Let me show you quickly how it looks like. So this is a Node package manager console. So I have done it previously. I've issued the command npm start, and the Webpack, which is a library, it has compiled successfully and it has created a server. So we can see our finished product for the, let us see how this is our finished product. So if we put any search term like say MVC, it will get all the results of MVC. So similarly, if you get surf, it will get the surf terms, right? So let's continue. We write components in our views in React. The components are code snippets that produce HTML. We create multiple of these components and nest them one inside the other in different fashion to make complex applications relatively simple. Component is a collection of JavaScript functions that produce HTML. For this video, I picked up an app that searches through the YouTube video list on a search term entered in a YouTube video list on a search term entered in a text field. It then lists all the videos with thumbnails and short description as a list and places one of them in the center with details below it. I've used YouTube Search API for the application and used the API key for YouTube Data API version 3 obtained from this URL http://console.developers.google.com, like such. You can see there. It looks like this: http console.developers.google.com. So it brings the Google APIs, and I've already created the APIs for this project, but you can see the library, and you can see for YouTube, you can search for YouTube APIs. So this one, YouTube Data API version 3. So this is the YouTube Data API version 3 is the API that provides access to the YouTube data such as videos, playlists, etc., etc. Right? So coming back to our slideshow. Now we have found that the discussion on state is a very key concept, because this is one of the most confusing topics. Where a state is a plain JavaScript object used in React to record user events. Each class-based component that we define has its own state object. Whenever a component state is changed, the component is immediately re-renders, which is what I said a while back. Before we initialize state inside any component, we need to initialize the state object. So all JavaScript classes have a special function called constructor, which is the only function called automatically whenever a new instance of the class is created. Now, the setState method updates the DOM with the changes. The idea of the controlled component, there is the concept of controlled component, which is such that the state should dictate changes to the input rather than the other way around. That is, the input element or the DOM element should not dictate the state to change when it changes. It should be the other way around. Like when the state changes, it should dictate the changes to the input element. So render return input value is equal to this.state.term. Now going back to how does the index, the project look like. I have opened the Atom and here it is the project which is loaded. You can see that this is the master folder, React YouTube Search App Master. So it has got a node modules folder, which is which contains everything, all the libraries, important libraries like Redux, React, React DOM, Webpack. But it has got a source directory as well. So this source directory is the most important. This is the directory where we place within a components folder that we create ourselves all the components that we create. All right, and this is the index file. So the index file looks like this, index.js. So this is the key file. This is the it contains the API keys which we get from the URL which I just showed to you a while back, and it has got a bunch of import statements. So this is the finished product. So I will explain eventually what is this Lodash. This is a library to do some stuff, to throttle the loading of a particular function, and it imports the React. It imports the component from React. So component is enclosed within two curly braces because its value it is it's a JavaScript object used in JSX, file, and we are importing a bunch of other things. Now this here import search bar from this is the current directory / component / search bar. Similarly, we are importing VideoList and video detail. Now, if we write the component ourselves as opposed to getting it from the library, then we have to give it a relative path reference like such, go to the from the current directory, go to the components directory, and then look for the search bar. Now, if here you can see that search bar .js, search_bar.js is missing, which is understood. If it is just a JavaScript file, then this the file extension is not needed. So that's it. And then you see that there is a app class which is at the root of all the components. This extends the component class, and this uses again this constructor which I just said about the state management. So set is state is assigned the videos, which is an empty array, and selected video is initially null. So going back again to our description, we'll go for the React render workflow. The workflow is our app starts up and renders an instance of search bar. So a new search bar instance is created and the constructor is called. So what is the search bar looks like? The search bar is this file. This is also a class component. It's not a it's not a functional component because it has to manage the states. It has to track this change of state. So whenever we need to track change of state, we go for class-based component as opposed to functional components, which let me see if I could show you an example of. So this video list item is a functional component. Okay, so we'll discuss it later. This video list is also a functional component as opposed to the search bar or the app class, which are class-based components. So going back to the workflow, the value of the input element is set to retrieve from this .state.term. Its value is initially set to an empty string. It sits at that value waiting for the user to enter some other text. And this is very important to understand. The value of the input element is set to retrieve from this .state.term. Now its value is initially set to an empty string. It sits at the empty string value waiting for the user to enter some other text. Okay. The event handler runs, but the value of the input element has not changed by that time. The event handler changes the state with the value, and the input element is immediately re-rendered. The value of the input is now updated to receive the new and updated value of the state. The initial setting inside the constructor has some uses. It allows to pre-populate the value of the input element, which can be easily changed. Right? The class-based components are required whenever we need to be aware of a state in some fashion. Functional components are used whenever we are just taking in some information and spitting out the JSX. A functional component can contain a class-based component. This is a functional component. Initially, what happens that when we start writing this application, we have created a functional component app. So this is the functional component which returns a div that contains a search bar component, which is a class-based component. So we can see that the functional component can contain a class-based component. Now this const app equals empty pair of circular braces is a way of writing syntactic sugarcoating in ES6. So we get rid of the function keyword there. So this is quite fashionable to use in React. Now we use state whenever the data changes and we want to persist through the life of the application. We import component like component at the top and refactor code in one to look like, we refactor the code. So how does it look like, so now from the functional component we change it to the class base component. Only the top line changes. The const app equals bracket fat arrow, it becomes class app extends component, and everything else is the same. As you can see, we shall need to update the state whenever there is a new search, so we need the constructor function. So 2 is now refactored to 3, which is looking like this. So we are calling the constructor as we explained, because we are now updating the state. So this is expression 3. As we load the app, the state should be set with a list of videos with a pre-populated search term. Here, say surfboard as follows. Now, YT search, YouTube search. So we have to give a key, which is the API key, which is a constant value, and with the search term, say within double quotes, surfboards. Now, this surfboards could be anything. It could be JavaScript, it could be React, it could be chicken curry or anything like that. So the second argument is the function which passes in a data that sets the state of the property videos with the data that's passed in, and then it does and returns, and there's the expression 4. So we have refactored from expression 1 to expression 4. Further modification of the code, we use more ES6 syntax. The expression 4 now looks like, since object in the object, the key and values are identical, we could condense as follows. It's just a matter of making a shortcut way of writing. So this YouTube search changes, although the function still, its behavior still remains the same. Now, the architectural challenges for this YouTube video app was a few, which I have now enumerated. The app has been built with 3 main components to display the video from the search word. Namely, there are 3 components or 3 main sections, you can say: video detail, video list, and video list item. In the video list component, the video list is a functional component as it is not tracking the state. This is exported to another component with a statement export default video list. Now, any component that has to be used in some other component has to be somehow exported. The export statement goes like this: export default and then the component name. This component also uses Bootstrap style sheet. Finally, the video list component is imported to index file with an import statement, such as import video list from the current directory, and within the current directory the components folder, and then video list file, video_list. In the scenario, the parent component is app with the child component being video list. App must pass details of the videos to the child video list, and the passing data is straightforward. So this is how we pass the data. Video list videos equal to within the pair of curly braces, we enclose this.state.videos. Here video is known as props object. Anytime the app re-renders, the video list is updated. When you use props object, it will arrive as the function argument in video underscore list, which is a function based component. However, the props can be used anywhere in the class component. This, like this dot props dot videos. We need to render one video list item per video. Now, making list with React is easy. The video list receives a prop which contains a list of items which could be looped over each video to generate a video list item. We have used the iterator map in this case. In practice, in the app, the code looks like, video list.js, const video list, props, fat arrows, const video items equals props.videos.map video, which returns a video list item, key video.etag. Now video.etag is got straight out of the response of the YouTube search API, and video is video. The code above throws an error if there is no key included, so that key needs to be included. Key video list item is a functional component which now will have some styling with bootstrap classes to make it more browser friendly. For example, const video list item. So you've got a list item on click. So we got a few div within div with a class name bootstrap styling, and which gives it a nice image like we have seen the finished product. Now this, look at this image URL. Image URL is the response received from the YouTube, which has all the child objects. It's not a magic, but it is got from the response straight, videos dot snippet dot thumbnail dot default dot URL. It is if we check it with the console.log, we find the response like this. Video detail. The important thing to review before making a component is, does the component need to maintain any type of state? The video detail only needs to maintain the title, description, and the URL of the video. These are properties available through props, so it doesn't need to maintain any state. So video detail, let's see, where is video detail? This is the video detail as it looks in the project. So it just needs to mention the title, description, and URL. Okay, video detail. So it doesn't need to maintain any state, which it gets through the props. So it can use a functional component like so. This is a functional component. In the video detail, template strings are used like below to concatenate two strings for the URL. So this is, just like in the old style, we have seen that, if you need to concatenate these two strings, https://www.youtube.com/embed/ then again a single quote video ID. So it could be all just in one line, in one sentence we can concatenate two strings with this backtick. This is backtick symbol as opposed to the single quote. This is not single quote, but this backtick, which is I think with the above the tab key along with the tilde sign. So this is a backtick, right? Now the video detail component is passed to the index.js. Some parent objects. Now video detail component is passed to index.js. So this is exported to video detail. Video detail is passed to index.js. So we are exporting the video detail. Now in the index file, we see that we are importing video details, right, from this folder. Some parent objects can't fetch information fast enough to the child objects. To handle the situation, we write the code below to check, if not video. So initially there is till it searches, the search gets its result. The we have to check if there's no video, because initially there's no video, so it should return a spinner, which is in this case it is just a loading. It shows that the video is still loading for just a fraction of a second before the video loads. We can't still, here we have faced that we can't still click any video. So the selected video. So now we introduce the concept of a selected video. The selected video concept was added to the app component state. The selected video is a video object and will always be passed to the video detail. Now let's see what it is. Video detail. The selected object is passed. Selected video. Selected video. So selected video concept was added to the app component state. Yeah, this is the app component state. This is the selected video. And selected video is a video object and will always be passed to the video detail. So as we have seen that it has been passed to the video detail. Pass a callback from app video list, app to the video list. And then on to video list item. And video list item. So whenever the video list item is clicked, it will run the callback with the video that belongs to it. Styling with CS. Now, as I've seen that styling was done using class names, the same as the components in the small case separated by a hyphen in the style sheet CSS file. Searching for videos. In the index.js, we refactored the YouTube search into its own method as shown. So video search term. So in the index.js, let's go for index.js. Yeah. So video search term. So we have now shifted in its own method the YouTube search, the video search method. Next, the video search term method is passed onto the search bar in the property on search term change as follows. The search bar on search term change, this is the one. So term goes to this dot video search term, where the search bar will call on a new search term, the video search method passing it the new search term, which will fetch the new list of videos. The video search method passes video search method passing it the new search term, which will fetch the new list of videos. Then on search bar dot we refactored the on change event, so whenever the input changes, it would call the on input change method. So whenever the input changes, it will call the on input change method. This method will first set the state of this component and then it fires up the callback function on search term change. Okay, these are the two lines that explain what I just said. Now throttling the input for search. Now finally we are coming to the end of the discussion with an idea of how the input can be throttled. The idea is to throttle how often we kick off the search, as still now with each keystroke a new search is kicked off. The search term updating so frequently looks jarring to the eyes. We shall use a library lodash to throttle the event kickoff. Lodash has a function called debounce which does this. Now we need to install lodash with npm by this command, npm install -- save lodash. We then import lodash with this statement using underscore. Import underscore from lodash. Then in the render of the index file, the debounced version is introduced as follows. Const video search underscore dot debounce. So term with the fat arrow reference, this go dot video search term with the 500 actually indicates the 500 milliseconds. The way debounce function works is that it takes the inner function. This is this dot video search term function. and this is this function, and it delays the calling of the inner function by 500 milliseconds. So now, in conclusion, we have come to the end of this discussion, and we'll conclude with the main topics that we have covered is the difference between a functional and a class-based components, the concept of state with how an input is wired up with state, as in search bar .js. Component state is changed, the component immediately re-renders along with all its child. The import statements. Whenever we import a file that we write, we include the relative path reference, whereas when we use a library, we give the name of the library. We use callbacks quite often with React only application, as in this app, where we use callbacks twice, which is quite good number of calls. Nonetheless, they are a great way of communication between the parent and the child components. And the state is very component level in React, but it's more application level in Redux. So